Today I was thinking about prayer. Many times when I'm praying, I find myself begging God for something. Like when I was a small child, I was about 8 years old, and I wanted to learn how to sew. More than anything, I wanted to sew. I had a small allowance, but I didn't know if I had enough money to buy sewing needles. I asked my father, and he casually mentioned that he didn't know how much it cost. So that night, I couldn't sleep. I just wanted to sew, and that was all I could think of. So I started praying, asking God for me to be able to buy those needles. And suddenly, my bedroom door flew open and something hit me in the head. I heard my dad say, "Here's your sewing needles. Your grandma sent them over to you." I was so excited. I went back to my prayer and said, "Never mind, God. I got some needles." Another time I heard my parents in the other room. They were arguing, and it made me feel really nervous. So I got on my knees and I asked God to intervene. Instantly, there was a knock at the door, and some family friends suddenly dropped by. I could hear my parents laughing. Again, I said, "Never mind, God. We got company." I guess I was young and I didn't realize my prayers were actually being answered. But years later, I learned that there appears to be many different kinds of prayer. I remember reading a passage that said when you're praying to feel as if it already has been answered. And I put that idea to use one time when a couple of thugs began beating up on a friend of mine. I called the police and then I began to pray. I imagined that everything was okay, and then an incredible peace overcame me. And I knew it was true. So then I just began to thank God for my answered prayer. My friend wasn't even hurt. Greg Braden talked about an experience he had with a Native American friend praying for rain. He said, praying for rain is like admitting that you don't have it. His friend went to a place which for centuries had been used where they say the worlds were thin. He honored and thanked the spirits and ancestors, and then he put himself in his imagination, in his village, in a rainstorm, feeling it, smelling it, and being grateful and joyful, present in it. It took maybe a minute. That evening, several months-long drought was brought to an end by a fluke turn in the jet stream, bringing a flooding rain to his one particular area. Greg Braden speaks of going to a special place with his Native American friend, and this is where he went to pray for rain. He says that the secret mode of prayer is to shift our perspective of life by feeling that the miracle that we're asking for has already happened, and our prayers have already been answered. Now we have the opportunity to bring this wisdom into our lives as prayers of gratitude for what already exists rather than asking for our prayers to be answered. I kind of think this is like visualization, but we're bringing God into the equation. The other day I emailed an old friend of mine who was talking about, be sure you stock up on food and water and fill your gas tanks. Just the situation on the planet right now. She said that she was already ready with all that stuff and she's not worried about anything. She said, many years ago, I told her, daydream your future. I got a kick out of her telling me that I had told her that because I had long forgot it, but I really like it. It's like what Greg Braden said. You're visualizing, but daydream sounds like a lot more fun. It helps us concentrate on what we want rather than what we don't want. Kind of like manifesting, I think. But you're bringing God into it too. And it's a fun game to play with the mind. Especially helpful for those of us who tend to overthink at times. And just like me and the sewing machine needles, God may have already answered our prayers and we just don't realize it yet. God bless you, my friend.